Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Friday, July 19th, another day closer to the start of New York Jets training camp next week. Rookies have reported. Everyone else will report early next week. First practice will be Wednesday. First practice with fans in attendance will be Thursday, as tickets were released and sold out yesterday for the first four practices. So Jets fans are excited once again, and NFL fans as a whole are excited as you can start to smell football. The last real dead week of the NFL calendar year is coming to a close, and next week all the training camp content, training camp practices begin, and preseason week one, all of that gets closer. So exciting times to be a football fan. This is episode 327 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those of you tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like this video and subscribe. Appreciate all of your support. As always, last week we did, a week ago today on Friday, last Friday, we did our New York Jets offensive breakout candidates. If you want to check that out, definitely go check that out. Appreciate the support. We broke down 3 New York Jets offensive breakout candidates. Fast forward a week later, today, July 19th, Friday, we're going to reveal our New York Jets defensive breakout candidates. 3 guys on the New York Jets defense that hopefully and need to break out this season in order for the Jets to have the continued success that they've had on the defensive side of the football since the 2022 campaign, as they enter really their third year of being considered one of the, if not the best, elite defenses in the NFL with their play in 2022 and then, of course, last year, despite all the problems that they've had on the other side of the football at quarterback. So we'll break that down today on the podcast. Now, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an app that gathers tickets from all over the internet. And what makes SeatGeek so great is, they tell you what you're getting on each ticket in terms of your deal. If you're getting a good deal or a bad deal, they tell you. They rate each ticket from 0 to 10. Green means good. Yellow means okay, you could do better. Red means stay away. So you know if you're getting a good deal or not on your ticket. Plus, my viewers will get $20 off when you use promo code BubsOnSports when making your first SeatGeek purchase. Click the link in the description down below to download the SeatGeek app. Use promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. This isn't just NFL tickets. This isn't just Jets tickets. You want to go to a concert. You want to go to a show. You want to go to a play. Baseball, when basketball and hockey season starts up again. Of course, football as well. Soccer, tennis, anything, any sport you can name, any event you can name. If you can buy a ticket for it, SeatGeek has it. Use promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Also, Huga House. Get yourself some Huga House swag. You want to get the hat that Aaron Rodgers is wearing, or the hats that I wear, or even the hat that Shane Gillis is wearing, or even the hats that Shohei Ohtani rocks. Division rival, maybe overrated, Josh Allen rocks. Tyler Conklin, JT Realmuto, many celebrities, many athletes rock the Huga House apparel. They just released 10 brand new hats, but they are going fast. There's not many left. So if you want to get your hands on one of the 10 brand new Huga House hats, or any of the hats that Aaron Rodgers wears, or myself wears, or Shane Gillis, or Shohei Ohtani, or any other athletes rock, head on down, click the link in the description down below. That'll take you to the Huga House store, and use promo code BUBS for 15% off your purchase at Huga House. Get yourself some of the swag that QB1 Aaron Rodgers is rocking. All right, now to today's podcast. Last week, like I said, we did our New York Jets 3 offensive breakout candidates. If you want to hear what those were, head on down, find that episode, and give it a listen or a watch for those of you tuning in on YouTube. Today, we're going to do the same thing except for defense. And I'll admit, it's kind of funny with the way the New York Jets defense has been over the last 2 seasons. They've been one of the elite units in football. They have been the strength of this team. They've been the only reason this team has found a way to muster up 7 wins in the last 2 years, despite having quarterbacks such as Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, Mike White, even Chris Streveler. All these different quarterbacks take the field despite historically bad quarterback play over a 34-game stretch through 2 seasons. They've managed 14 wins. 95% of 97, 98 really percent of those wins have been because of the defense. There's not many games that have been because of the offense. So my point is, there's not really too many guys on this defense that you can really think of that haven't broken out or need to break out or need to contribute more or whatever the case may be, because you look at this defense. Jermaine Johnson broke out last season. He's entering year 3 where he will continue to get better. Quinnen Williams is one of the elite defensive tackles in the game. Hassan Reddick, the contract situation will get figured out. Don't worry, Jets fans. I'm not panicking. I'm not worried. It'll get figured out. He's one of the top edge rushers in the NFL. CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams. We know what those guys are capable of. They've got the best cornerback room in football. So they've have a lot of some of the best talent at each position. So there's not really many guys that need to break out. Unlike offense, where there hasn't been many pieces on the offense that have contributed. You need to have more guys contribute at a higher level. And you hope that those breakout candidates that we discussed last week do come out and play at a much higher level and produce at a much higher rate than they've been. Now, defense, it's a little different. So here are our 3 defensive breakout candidates without any further discussion. We'll start here on the defensive line up front. One of the best units in football, but one guy that needs to step up in year number 2 is Will McDonald. We'll start with him. You kind of go back to the whole Will McDonald situation on draft night, where the Jets selected him 15th overall, of course, last year, 2023, in the first round. Didn't need an edge rusher, but they went out and drafted an edge rusher. In the moment, you thought Broderick Jones they would go after. Of course, New England traded with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh moved up, kind of screwed the Jets, took Broderick Jones right in front of them. Jets stayed put at 15. They got left with Will McDonald. They passed up on JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who, of course, had a solid rookie season. So they passed up on guys that they needed on offense. They needed offense with that pick, more so defense. So really right off the bat, Will McDonald, it wasn't the player himself. It was more the pick that kind of set Jets fans off on the wrong note, because Jets fans wanted an offensive lineman. They wanted a wide receiver to put alongside Garrett Wilson. They wanted help on offense to help continue to also build around, at the time, first year with the Jets, Aaron Rodgers. We all know how the season went anyway. It was a complete disaster. If they went offense anyway, it wouldn't have mattered. The offense still would have been garbage. But Will McDonald, nothing against him, but the minute he was drafted, Jets fans, everybody was kind of like, really? This is the pick? It's not liking him. It's just not liking the pick. And I think Jets fans are still, just because of looking back at that draft pick and seeing the guys the Jets passed up on, are still, a lot of fans are still very questionable about what Will McDonald might do in year number 2, the 25-year-old out of Iowa State. Now, last year, he primarily played in a developmental role, as we all know. Kind of did what Jermaine Johnson did in 2022, where, rotational piece, not a whole lot of action. We know what the Jets like to do, rotating their edge rushers. Legitimately 9-10 guys deep on that defensive line. They rotate. And Jermaine Johnson, we saw last year, take a bigger role, more playing time, took a jump. Will McDonald had that developmental role, so you expect more playing time this year. And look, McDonald, he played 15 games, had 14 total tackles, 3 sacks, had 1 forced fumble, and had 6 quarterback hits. This was a guy, 3 sacks. Apologize for that. I think I mentioned that. But this was a guy that showed some flashes. Some flashes, not a whole lot, though. The numbers aren't very impressive. He wasn't on the field much. But a couple of things that he did bring to the table that we knew coming out of college, despite not liking the pick, he is freakishly athletic. And you saw that on display last season. I mean, this was a guy that he could jump over a car. He could do backflips like it's nothing. Not that that is the end-all, be-all in the NFL, but you saw the freak athleticism at times last season help him get a sack, help him dominate an offensive tackle, get to the quarterback, get a pressure. There was flashes there, specifically late in the season, where you had a Washington game. You had a couple flashes where he was able to get to the quarterback, use his spin move to his advantage. He had a sack, of course, against the Texans. He had the sack against New England. A really good game he had against New England to close out the year. The final 4 or 5 weeks of his season, he showed a lot of really good positives. And the spin move is really good, and his athleticism is legit. He's got to put on a little bit more NFL size, and of course, he's got to get more playing time. But there should be hope here for Will McDonald. I think a lot of Jets fans are doubting him a little too much. I've kind of been in the middle, I would say. I'm not hyping him up I don't think he'll take a Jermaine Johnson-like leap this year. I don't. That would be great. I think Jermaine Johnson's just better, personally, than Will McDonald. But I think he should take a leap. And I don't think this is a guy that's going to go out and have 3 sacks again and not do a whole lot in a bigger role. He should take a leap. And I think he really can break out. One thing with Will McDonald that should get Jets fans excited, and a really interesting stat last year. Best pass rush win rate by rookie edge rushers since 2006. Per PFF, minimum 100 pass snaps. You look at this list. Will McDonald is 7th best. He had a 16% pass rush win rate last year as a rookie, which is really, really good. That's the 7th best by a rookie since 2006. He was actually not tied. He was 0.1% under Will Anderson, who won Rookie of the Year last year on the defensive side of the football for the Houston Texans. So Will McDonald, essentially, when you look at the best pass rush win rate, was statistically had one of the best, had the 7th best since 2006. Also, if you notice on there, former Jet Carl Lawson, of course, had his name on the list in 2017 with 16.7. So that's a stat that should really get you excited. Like, he was able to get to the quarterback. He was able to get pressures. He was able to use his athleticism to his advantage. The spin move can be nasty. You watch the film, it can be a really, really good weapon for him. Now it's about finishing sacks, finishing to the quarterback, putting on a little bit more size, becoming an all-around edge piece, getting better against the run, progressing in all other aspects of your game. I think he will. I'm optimistic for Will McDonald this year. He needs to play. He has some pressure on him because he's going to play a bigger role with JFM gone, right? And Bryce Huff gone. He's going to play a much bigger role. He's going to essentially really be that third edge guy. And let's just say, hypothetically, Hassan Reddick leaves after this season. You're then stuck with Will McDonald, and then you're stuck with Jermaine Johnson, which is I'm not saying stuck with in a bad way, but if Hassan Reddick plays one season, you would then go into 2025 with those 2 guys. Unless if Michael Clemens takes some sort of jump this year, those are your only 2 edge rushers that you would truly believe in. But the only way you're going to believe in Will McDonald is if he has a good year. And that's why he needs to break out, not only for this season, but for the future. If Will McDonald doesn't have a good year this year, the fallout is so large. Because then you would go into next season with, after having like all these edge pieces and all these pieces up front defensively, you would then be stuck with Jermaine Johnson, and that's pretty much it at edge. So Will McDonald, just for the future of this defensive line, needs to have a big year this year for himself and the team moving forward. So breakout candidate number 1, Will McDonald. Number 2. This is an interesting one because I guess you could say, in a way, he broke out a little bit last year, but I still think he can reach another level, and that's Tony Adams. Tony Adams is a pretty cool story, as I think most Jets fans know. And this was an undrafted free agent out of Illinois. A lot of us Jet fans, similar to Will McDonald back in 2022, were a little frustrated with what Joe Douglas did. If you remember, he traded Jason Pinnock traded him to the New York Giants because Tony Adams had such an impressive training camp that they moved on from Pinnock. Pinnock could do a little bit of everything, was really solid as a safety, could play both safety and corner, versatility, athletic, really good piece, and has been good with the Giants. But at the time, everyone's like, why do you train Pinnock, Tony Adams, undrafted free agent? This guy's a nobody out of Illinois. We're relying on him. What are we doing? Not against Tony Adams, the player, more so against the front office. Trading Pinnock was kind of frustrating and questionable. But so far, it's proven to work out okay. Tony Adams in his rookie year only played 11 games, didn't play a whole lot. Was kind of, stuck deep in the depth chart, 17 total tackles in 11 games, barely played, showed some promise late in the season in a couple of the snaps that he had. I always go back to that 2022 game late in the year against the Seattle Seahawks, where I thought he played really well. And then even the next week in Miami, I thought the final 2 weeks of the season, he played really well. And he was kind of able to carry that into last year. Tony Adams was productive last season. And this is an interesting name to talk about because safety is an interesting position with the Jets. You look at it, and Tony Adams and Chuck Clark are your starting safeties. When Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs are out there on the open market, you kind of start to wonder. It's like, all right, can they go out and bring in one of those guys, specifically Justin Simmons? Should they, bring in one of those guys if things don't go well? Some fans don't believe that, some fans would, even though Tony Adams showed some promise last year, they would still take Justin Simmons just because of the talent and the name. But Tony Adams did a lot of good things. 83 total tackles last season. He had 6 tackles for loss. Both of those led all Jet safeties. He had 3 interceptions last year. That was tied for second on the team. And he also dropped a couple interceptions. There was more on the table. He could have probably had 4 to 5 interceptions, probably could have had 2 more interceptions, which we would probably look at and say, man, 5 interceptions, it's a great year. But that's all about progressing. That's all about getting better, is kind of capitalizing. We know what the Jets are. Other than Ashton Davis, there's a lot of guys in the New York Jets defense that like to drop interceptions. CJ Mosley's one of them. Tony Adams had some struggles. Don't always do a great job of holding on to interceptions, which is frustrating. But, you can't beat him up too much because it's one of the best defenses in football. Every team's going to have its weakness somewhere. But I think entering this year, Tony Adams is a guy that you have to look at for a big year 3. He's following along a really good developmental path, right? Came as a UDFA, played really well in training camp, impressed a lot. Goes out there, rookie year, doesn't play much. Plays a little bit more towards the end of the season, shows some good things. Goes into last year, another good training camp. Starting gig, 15 games, 83 tackles. Was the Jets' best safety last season. And now entering year 3, he's going to be paired up with Chuck Clark, who is going to be better than anybody he's ever played alongside. Chuck Clark, a veteran in this league, can do pretty much anything you ask him to do and has always been an Ironman, reliable. Unfortunately, comes to the Jets and gets hurt in OTAs, but now he's healthy, and you hope he comes back full strength to what he's been able to do in his career during his years in Baltimore. But I think Tony Adams and Chuck Clark, look, the Jets never sold high on their safeties. They never have. And I've said it. I would be all for bringing in Justin Simmons. I don't think they'll do it. But even if they don't do it, I think as a Jet fan, you should have a good amount of confidence in Tony Adams. He showed some good things last year. He's consistently gotten better. I don't think there's any reason to not believe, especially being next to the best safety that he'll play next to so far in his career, and Chuck Clark, who's better than what Jordan Whitehead brought and even what LaMarcus Joyner brought in 2022. Tony Adams could definitely get better playing alongside a guy like that. And he could take advantage. So I think Tony Adams, you can kind of say he broke out a little bit last year. Not, didn't break out in a huge way, but, and I don't mean break out like he's going to be a Pro Bowl or All-Pro Justin Simmons level. No. And I mean break out like you walk away from this season and he is legitimately the best safety in this room and a really solid piece on defense. And I think he's shown you enough to believe that he can do that in his age 25 season, in his 3rd year. 5 passes defended last year. He didn't have a single pass defended in his rookie season. He didn't have a single interception in his rookie season. He barely played. He took more playing time last year and ran with it. So Tony Adams, breakout candidate number 2. Moving on here, number 3. This was interesting. And I'll be honest, I couldn't really think of another breakout candidate outside of those 2. It took me some time. I'm not even joking. I thought about the idea of maybe Jamie Sherwood. I just don't see it, though. I'll be honest. Maybe, he did have he was okay last season, but, Mosley and Quincy Williams are just so good. Like Sherwood he kind of gets, I just don't think Sherwood's never going to be a name that Jets fans are going to be like, oh my gosh, he's having a huge year. Because he's always going to kind of be not stuck behind. He'll be out there with them, but he's always going to kind of be the third linebacker. Like he's not going to ever really be the main focal point. The secondary, there's no breakout candidates. Sauce, DJ Reed, Michael Carter, all those guys are elite, really good players. Chuck Clark doesn't need a breakout. Ashton Davis kind of broke out last year. So and Michael Clemens, I don't think will break out. Again, these are guys that I think will break out too. Michael Clemens, I don't have really any hope for him. So I'm going to go with Javon Kinlaw. And I know that might get Jets fans kind of scratching their head a little bit. This is a guy that hasn't even played a single snap with the Jets, has pretty much been a bust since being drafted in the first round in 2020. What gives you the belief when he hasn't played a snap with this team that he's going to break out this year? Well, here, I'll tell you why. Again, as we mentioned, first round pick, 14th overall in 2020. It hasn't panned out. He was alongside Robert Saleh. Saleh was the defensive coordinator, as we know, for his first season in San Francisco. Then took the Jets job, of course, in 2021. Kinlaw now reunites with Saleh. It feels very similar to Solomon Thomas to the Jets. Solomon Thomas, of course, spent time with Saleh during his first couple years. Reunites with Saleh in New York. Feels very similar. Reclamation project. And we'll start right there. The New York Jets love having former first-round picks on their team. Like guys that don't quite live up to expectations that they bring aboard. Right? You remember Shaq Lawson 2021. Carl Lawson got hurt. They brought in Shaq Lawson. He had that big interception against the Bengals in the Mike White game. He was a former first-round pick, kind of a reclamation project. Solomon Thomas didn't pan out. First-round pick, reclamation project. Even Tack McKinley, who the Jets just added. We'll see if he makes the team, but he's going to compete for a roster spot. Reclamation project. Didn't live up to the hype during the time in Atlanta. And even Sheldon Rankins, too. Was okay in New Orleans, was solid, but never really lived up to the hype. Came to the Jets and was really, really good. Was a lot better than he was in New Orleans. Kind of broke out. Went to Houston and has made a nice career for himself now. And then even now you add Javon Kinlaw to that list of first-round picks, don't pan out originally, come to the Jets and do some good things. Solomon Thomas was solid last year. Sheldon Rankins, of course, was really good. Shaq Lawson was, he had a couple moments. That was kind of it. And then, of course, Javon Kinlaw you now add to that chart as well. And, you look at this Jets defensive line, too. These aren't reclamation projects, but these are just the first-round picks that are up front. You got Quinnen, first-round pick. You got Kinlaw, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Solomon Thomas, all first-round picks. Of course, Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams have lived up to the hype. Solomon Thomas hasn't. We'll see with McDonald, and of course, Kinlaw hasn't. But yeah, another first-round pick, another reclamation project. The Jets love to do this, and that's why I think he's going to break out. That's why I think he's going to have a good year, because the Jets have, under Jeff Ulbrich and Robert Saleh, they have a track record of bringing in guys that don't work out right away with the teams that draft them high in the draft. They come to New York and they kind of reshape their NFL career. We've seen it with multiple guys, as we just discussed. And what gives me confidence with Kinlaw, although he's playing in a much bigger role than he did in San Fran, and the Jets are going to ask him to do a lot this year with some of the pieces they lost in like Quentin Jefferson, Al Woods, Bryce Huff, JFM, guys like that, he's going to need to do a lot. He's going to need to fill some big shoes. But last year was Kinlaw's best year in the NFL. This is a guy that in his first 3 seasons struggled to stay on the field. Only had 1.5 sacks through 3 years, went all of 2021 and 22 without registering a single sack. He had 1.5 sacks in his rookie year, 3.5 last year. That's 5 total for his career. Now, he's only played 41 games over 4 seasons. That's an average of 10.25 games per year. That's one of his biggest issues. But when you look at his numbers last year, they were the best he's ever putting up. 25 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 3 passes defended, 1.5 stuffs. Not crazy impressive. I'm not saying it is. But for what he did in his previous 3 seasons, being pretty much non-existent in San Francisco, last year was the first year where he was actually able to make some plays. And it was also his first year where he stayed healthy and played all 17 games. All 17. The first time he's ever done that. The Jets are it's a low-risk move. They're giving him a 1-year deal to see if he can go out there and play all 17, stay healthy like he did last year, and, not asking him to put up 7, 8 sacks, but hey, Quentin Jefferson came here last year and had a career year, and he got hurt. He would have played more, but he got hurt. Kinlaw goes out there. Is it crazy to say he can have 5, 5.5, 6 sacks this year? I don't think so. Because his 2 best seasons in San Francisco, one of those came under Robert Saleh as a rookie. And he's also coming off of a career year. So, from that standpoint, and the Jets' track record of doing this, I think it's realistic to say he can break out because we've seen the Jets have success with breakout players like this before. And I know when you look at the overall numbers, 70 total tackles, 5 sacks, 7 passes defended in 4 years is really bad for a 14th overall pick. But you have to take what he did last year and use the Jets' track record and hope that they can get him going in the right direction. So that's why I'll give him a breakout candidate number 3 here. He's has big shoes to fill, because Jefferson's gone, right? JFM, of course. You also have Huff gone. Al Woods is gone. The Jets lost a lot of pieces, and they replenished those pieces with Hassan Reddick, Lecky Fotu, Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw, he's going to be out there in that starting. He's going to be alongside Quinton Williams at defensive tackle on the left side. This is a guy that essentially he's going to play in a starting role at times for the Jets this season. That's no joke. But we've seen the Jets do this before. And you have to have confidence. One thing you have to have confidence in this team, this coaching staff, is defense. I have trust in Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich because of their track record that this is going to be similar to some of the other moves they've made with reclamation projects where they've worked out. Javon Kinlaw shouldn't be any different. Breakout candidate number 3. So again, Will McDonald, Tony Adams, Javon Kinlaw, those are my 3 New York Jets defensive breakout candidates. Let me know in the comments section down below for those tuning in on YouTube what your thoughts are on those. Like I've said, starting Monday will be my first player preview episode. 2 players every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday up until week 1. We'll be previewing each player, all guys and everybody on the roster, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday up until week 1. So a lot of content. That'll start on Monday. Of course, training camp videos will start on Wednesday with the first practice. So that's awesome. Players report Tuesday, the 23rd. First practice Wednesday. First practice to the fans Thursday. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Once again, podcast partners, head on over. Click the link in the description down below to download the SeatGeek app. Use promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And also, you want to get the hat Aaron Rodgers is wearing, or even Shane Gillis, or the hats that I wear when I'm not wearing the Jets hat. Head on down, click the link in the description down below. That'll send you to the Huga House store. Use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase at Huga House. Again, promo code BUBS for 15% off at Huga House. And promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. So get yourself some tickets, get yourself some swag, and help support the pod. A lot more content coming your way. The dead part of the off season, I guess if that's what you want to call it, is coming to an end. It's pretty much over. We've made it. Exciting times. Can't wait to break all the training camp practices down and recap them all. Get out to camp. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. Till then, Jets, 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 Jets.